We'll see how much you enjoyed this. Forgotten greatness of the 80s. Forgotten greatness of the 80s. Patrick, you have 2 minutes.
Well, welcome to Club 1080. Here we are. I got DiMaggio with the girls over there. I got Mantle pouring drinks. We got Ruth on the grill keeping it hot. And I got A-Rod in a corner doing nothing. And they want to know what's lost from the 80s. And I think one of the biggest loss from the 80s is the music. We heard someone talk earlier about the music. They're losing the music from the 80s. I hear so many kids today in this indie phase, this indie rock phase. And everyone's got a keyboard and a chick on a keyboard and trying to drop something hot. And the problem is in the 80s, they made bad music with style. They came at you with the goodness. They actually knew what they were doing, what they were playing, how to play that keyboard. To where now they're too focused on the scene and trying to make sure that everything works out right. And the problem is when they get back to the music, they get back to the idea of actually performing what you need to perform, then you can let your style and swag come back out. You can't just rely on being a hipster kid standing outside smoking a cigarette talking about, oh man, that guy the other day, he just didn't quite bring it like I thought he should. No. Let the music come out and we'll let the drinks keep flowing, the parties keep coming. And bad hair and all, those girls are going to keep coming your way. So it's in my best interest, it's in your best interest, it's in all of our best interest to bring your style, bring your actual talent, and the ladies will fall, the parties will fall, and you will never forget the 80s because you can say, Mama, I got to where I am because I learned talent ruled in the 80s.
All right, Patrick, nice job. Nice job with that one. A little tougher, but let's go to Dusty, who might have wished he could have grown up in the 80s.
I really liked you in the auditions, and I thought that you were right up this alley, but I think that you kind of missed it on this one, and you tried to kind of bring it back, and you bought yourself a little bit of time with the intro at the beginning to kind of think of where you were going, but you lost me with that DiMaggio and Ruth, and I didn't know quite what it was, but you got to the music of the 80s, but you didn't kind of tell me like what band was great, who was talented in the 80s. Was it Van Halen? Was it Poison? Was it Def Leppard? You know, what was it that really made the music great in the 80s? The fact that they could play is one thing. So there was a lot to kind of left out there for me to want you to get to, and it just never came around.
Mike Lynch, do you think Patrick took you back to the 80s and its greatness?
Well, I could tell that you were struggling a little bit when you heard the topic, that, you know, generationally, probably a little bit before. It's before my time, but one thing that I think you could have latched onto in the beginning was when you said bands now try too hard to be good when they're bad, when bands in the 80s were just having fun being bad. There's one thing that just popped in my mind, bad hair bands. That's a big 80s thing. You could have talked about that, talked about how they were bad, but they pulled along with it. I agree with Dusty where you lost me in the beginning almost immediately. I saw you were trying to get your thought going, but I had no idea where you were going. So it's a tough topic, and I thought you did a pretty good job covering up a lack of knowledge on it, but you got to have a little bit more specifics in there too.
You really could have used your coach Suk on this one. Nobody appreciates the greatness of the 80s.
He's my guy.
He's your guy.
Yeah.
Well, you appreciated some greatness
Come on,
in the
focus,
80s.
Trebek.
Sorry.
Well, look, I'm going to say the same things. You know, Patrick, how old are you?
28.
Yeah.
85.
So you were okay. Yeah. So there's the problem. That's a tough topic for you. That being
They
said,
just keep bringing them.
huh?
The tough topics. They
Yeah.
just keep coming.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of bad luck. You know, you being a little younger. I mean, there's a lot that's funny and there's a lot that's goofy about the 80s. So again, the key there was though. I mean, while you're still young, you maybe didn't live through it like we did. There's still a lot of stuff that I'm sure you know about. We were looking for something specific there, and you could pick that out, like Mike was saying, the hair bands or such, and you never found that one thing that was specific, and I think that's why you lost some folks. But that's a tough topic for you, though.